All right. I am Vickie Hormuth. I'm the Executive Director of AIARE, and welcome to the first of our series of 3 webinars for AIARE providers. This one being focused on general liability insurance for your AIARE providership. We have 2 other webinars coming up in the next 3 weeks. The next one being this Thursday, with a focus on marketing, SEO, and communication ecosystems. That's at 12 o'clock. And then November 7th, Sarah McGregor is hosting a webinar about managing your providership. So that's all focused on the work that you all do on the back end with Airtable and uploading all your rosters and things like that. And that's at 11:30 a.m. on November 7th. So we'll send some reminders out for those, but mark your calendars. All of our webinars are recorded and they'll be made available to everybody who participated, but even if you can't participate in person, we'll send those out and make them available. Of course, the only downside is you don't get to participate in the Q&A and ask our experts all your burning questions. So let's dive into what we've got going on today. I'd like to introduce you to Michelle Wiley. She's the owner of AdventSure Insurance, which is an insurance company out of Moab, Utah, that specializes in insurance for the outdoor world. She's an adventurer herself, which is super helpful. She really understands our business and our sports, which leads us to always have better insurance packages when our insurance agents have a better understanding of our business. We're going to host a presentation from her. She'll go through several points, and then we'll do a Q&A afterwards. You can feel free to type in any questions you might have during the session, and I'll help facilitate those at the end. Otherwise, you can raise your hand at the end during Q&A, and I'll call on you and unmute your line, and you can talk directly to Michelle. So without further ado, Michelle, take it away.
Great. Hey, thanks for having me on, Vickie. I super appreciate it. It's been fun kind of communicating with you back and forth about this. So that's been great for me. So I have 4 kind of main points that I'd like to cover regarding general liability insurance for air providers and mountaineers, climbers, backcountry skiers in general, and kind of how to navigate the insurance market, what's going on. I know it can get kind of complicated and confusing. So my goal is to try to be the guide for all of you through this. So the main 4 points are, I'm going to give an overview of the status of the insurance market in general and what's going on right now. Then we're going to kind of hone in on the sports insurance market. And then specifically to climbing, mountaineering, and skiing, and kind of how that affects you guys. I'll let you know what my agency can cover and how we can help you, and then just let you know like where the market is headed from there. As well, I had typed up a whole thing and sent it over to Vickie. If any of you want it, you can just ask her. She can forward that to you too, so that you have something in writing. So the first thing is the status of the insurance market in general right now is we all are experiencing inflation. Cost of everything is increasing. The way that insurance companies make money is by investments. Right now, they're not making any money on investments, so they are raising premiums, and they're also tightening up the market, which kind of creates what's called a hard market. So that means that activities and operations like that they used to insure, they're kind of like, we see that as kind of high risk. We don't want to do it anymore. So we're seeing like non-renewals for everything. So AdventSure is just one of our arms of insurance that we do. So we do, all the outdoor insurance, but then we also write like Main Street businesses and stuff, personal insurance, anywhere from like restaurants to medical clinics to home and auto. And through the whole market, we're seeing people getting non-renewed for different reasons or premiums are increasing. So that's the market in general. And until inflation kind of stabilizes, I think we're going to keep seeing that. And just from what I'm reading and what I'm experiencing, I think we're going to be seeing this hard market for, I'm going to say maybe another year. I don't really know. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. Going on to sports insurance, the sports insurance market. There's kind of like a kind of a double whammy going on. So first we have the hard market in general, and then the sports insurance is kind of funneling down so that the market is hard, and insurance companies are also like, this has been really undervalued for a while. So with like the explosion of like with COVID and sports, becoming like a little more popular, people could get outside and do stuff. Definitely like guides and outfitters saw like a huge spike in revenues and participation. So that kind of alerted like insurance companies to say, hey, what's going on? What are we actually insuring here? So for example, a year ago, I was able to write just like an easy climbing policy for $2,500. It's now minimum premium is $5,300. So it's increasing exponentially. And I don't know if that's where it's landing or not. So that's just what I'm seeing from my carriers. When I call them up and ask them, I'm like, what's going on? What are we seeing? How long is this going to go on for? The answer that I get is that they want a minimum premium so that they're making money, and so that they have customers who are going to be in this long term. Something that I notice is that I'll have a lot of customers, especially like my mountain bike customers, which like those premiums are a lot less than climbing premiums. We'll have a lot of, mountain bike coaches come on and, who aren't really into business. And so insurance companies kind of feel like they're writing a lot of policies and then they're canceling a lot of policies because people aren't serious, quote unquote. So that's something that we're seeing like in the sports insurance market. Honing in more on that with the like climbing, mountaineering, and skiing. These tend to be a little bit harder to write than other sports. I think insurance companies see climbing as really risky. They want to see more certifications, premiums are increased. There's not as many carriers. So that has become a pretty specialized and narrow market. And then when you combine everything, so like mountaineering and skiing can be a little bit easier than just straight up like rock climbing or canyoneering. Just kind of depends on like what you're doing. So what AdventSure can help you guys with is we can write or we can cover operations for avalanche courses all day, every day. That's pretty easy for us to do straight up. Backcountry skiing is also really easy for us to do. I have plenty of markets for those two activities. For climbing and mountaineering, I have a couple of carriers who will do that. Minimum premium for that is $5,300 for the year. And that was as of July 28th. So, and the reason why I say that is because there was a lot of turbulence with the kind of like the climbing mountaineering sector, for insurance over the summer. And that it seems like maybe that has kind of like calmed down a little bit. I haven't written a climbing policy since I think the middle of August. So I'm not sure where things are landing right now. I'm kind of hoping that things are still about the same. Ice climbing is particularly hard. I'm working with my preferred carrier right now to cover ice climbing. I have another carrier who will do it. They're pretty laborious to work with. I get conflicting information from them, so I don't really love working with them. If you need coverage for ice climbing, revenues need to be around like 150 to $200,000 a year for it to be worth my agency's time to write that. Everything else, though, is fairly easy for us to do. And the coverage that we have available is, other than ice climbing, is really robust. It covers professional liability, general liability, accident, like a no-fault accident medical coverage for participants. So that means like if a participant, breaks their wrist while they're under operation with you, you can send them to urgent care and they can get that taken care of. Doesn't affect your general liability coverage at all. So that's a really nice coverage to have. In addition to that, this carrier also covers what's called a worldwide endorsement. And so that's basically international coverage. So you're able to operate in other countries and have coverage for that. And I know that's something that a lot of you ask about. So those are kind of the basic coverages that we're able to offer. Where the market is heading is, I think it's going to continue to be hard. I'm not sure where things are going to land, but I would just expect, that premiums are either going to stay the same, they might go up a little bit. Something that the way that our agency works is that if you want to get a quote from us, we charge a $200 application fee up front. I take all of your information, get you a quote, and then if you buy the quote or if you buy the coverage, then we put that $200 application fee towards your premium. So I'll talk to you about like if anybody wants to work with us. I definitely don't want anybody paying that $200 application fee unless you have like all of the information in front of you, because I want you to be able to apply that to your premium. I don't want you paying that unnecessarily. So that is the information that I have. One last thing that I think that I'll bring up is because I think that some people were wondering about workers' compensation. I know that AIARE requires that, I think, of all of its people. Workers' compensation can be, it's pretty easy to write, say on my end. It's definitely complicated, say, because all states have different requirements and the class codes are weird. So like you might see something where it says that you're an amusement park worker or that you're a logger, or trying to think of some other things. I think like in one state, like they're classified as spelunkers. And so it sounds crazy, but like there's never going to be a specific class code for mountaineering or climbing or mountain bike guiding, anything like that, anything for guide. It's always going to be under like another category. So if you do have a workers' compensation policy or you get a quote and you see that class code on there, don't worry. It's just sort of like, somebody misspelling your name. It's not like totally right, but it's not wrong. That's just how they classify it. And so any kind of outdoor activity that involves that involves guiding tends to be a higher, like a more risky class code. And so that it costs more to, cover employees out in the field like that. I think that is what I got.
Great. A few questions came up for me during that, and I'll let all the other participants either write yours in the Q&A or go ahead and raise your hand if you have any additional. I have heard from a number of providers this year that upon renewal of their insurance, they're not actually getting renewal offers, they're getting just notices of cancellation. So can you talk about best practices for approaching your renewal period, specifically for your general liability insurance?
Meaning so that you don't get like hung out to dry without like not having coverage.
Yeah.
I think that if anybody who's on here currently has coverage with like has general liability coverage right now, I would reach out to my agent maybe like 60 or 90 days in advance and just ask to say, hey, is everything cool? Am I getting renewed? Can I get a renewal ahead of time? So they can usually do that. They should be letting you know in advance if you're getting non-renewed. And if you're getting non-renewed, they should be looking for, replacement coverage. So that's basically like how it works. But if people are kind of finding, that they don't have much, that they're not getting enough notice, I would reach out, 60 to 90 days in advance and just ask for a renewal.
And do you recommend that people work through an insurance broker versus working directly with insurance companies? Is that the best path to take?
It depends. Like, there are not a lot of direct carriers that people can work with for this kind of risk. There's none that I know of. Yeah, so there's none that I know of. So I don't think that it really matters. I think that, something that I would recommend to people is to find an agent who at least specializes in outdoor sports, so that they know that what you're talking about. I think it's going to be pretty hard to find anyone, like any agent out there, who can cover climbing, mountaineering, or backcountry skiing if they're not already specializing in outdoor sports. Because I think most people are just like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Do you know of any workers' comp coverage for international trips? Our current provider does not cover out of the country.
No, so that's where so general liability is pretty easy to do worldwide endorsement. General liability follows the insured. So therefore you're able to add an endorsement onto that, and then you can move around the world and operate. Workers' compensation and auto are two insurance coverages that are specific to states. So think of that as workers' compensation abroad it's not going to work. It's sort of like your health insurance abroad. It's like, you break your leg in France, you have health insurance in the United States. France is going to be like, I don't know what this is. So workers' compensation is the same thing. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know is that whatever workers' compensation coverage you have in the United States is not going to work abroad, or not going to be recognized abroad. So you'd have to find out per country if that's available or not.
And so if somebody was employing somebody, let's say, who lived in the state of Colorado, but they were guiding a trip abroad, the coverage would not extend, their Colorado workers' comp would not extend to that international trip for that
person. Not that I know of. Yeah.
We did once look into hosting an AIARE course down in Chile. And one of the things that we were looking at, knowing that we weren't going to be able to have workers' comp, was to buy like an insurance package through somebody like Global Rescue, so that they would have medical and evacuation covered, and we would cover the cost of that. And I know you're still leaving yourself open for some liability, but that was one way that we were considering at least offering some benefits to that person.
Totally. And that's something too that I would recommend to everybody for if you are operating abroad, so your general liability, if you have a worldwide endorsement, you're good to operate. Accident medical also that comes with, say, like the policies that we sell, are good in the United States, just like health insurance. So when you operate abroad, you can buy the accident medical for international travel. So like something that a lot of my customers do is you can just buy a package for all your people, and then you can just pass on that cost to them. So that's a way to get that done too. And I think it's good extra coverage.
Great
to have.
One thing that you had mentioned when you were talking about how to keep premiums low, you had mentioned that certifications might help keep premiums low. Is that
No. So there's not really a way to keep premiums low. Like, unfortunately, like insurance companies, at least for these risks, don't really, they require, well, I don't know if they require, they want to see certifications. Like, there's definitely like a list of things like that they want to see from the applicant, so it's like their resume, how long have they been doing it, equipment inspection logs, waivers of liability, that sort of thing. So just because you have a certification doesn't mean you can get like a lower premium. Basically, it's just like premium starts for climbing starts at $5,300, no matter what, whether your revenues are $1,000 a year or up to, it seems like it's around $80,000 a year. And then from there, then premiums are going to increase. So the way that they base it is on revenue and participant numbers.
okay? And is it helpful to divide up? And Travis, I see your question. I'll get to it in just a second. Is there a viewpoint from the insurance company, a difference between guiding activities and avalanche education courses?
Yes. So avalanche education courses are cheaper to insure. I have one carrier that does them specifically, and they break it out between classroom and field. They don't ask any questions. I don't tell them anything because they say that they're covering it. So but with that, if you're just doing like Abby courses, you do have to get there somehow. I think, based on what I see with the carrier, I think that they don't even know how people are like getting to like an Abby course site. Like, they just think like, oh, people are out there just like, digging pits, but they don't think about like how they got there. So, you have to get there either like, you're skiing, you're hiking, you're snowmobiling, whatever. So that will have to be added to the policy in some way. However, backcountry skiing, avalanche courses, those are the cheapest to cover. Once you get into climbing and mountaineering, it's a little more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that dovetails really nicely into a question from one of our motorized providers. And I do see we have a couple of our motorized folks on here today. Are motorized avalanche courses considered more or less risky than courses on skis or snowboards? Does a provider need to have motorized use explicitly noted in their policy if they are strictly teaching avalanche courses? Do you know of any underwriters that are currently willing to write these policies? And talking with other motorized providers, it would seem there is only one agency who is able to secure these policies.
So whoever asked that question already knows the answer. So yeah, so it is, motorized does have to be specified. Carriers do see snowmobiling as riskier than backcountry skiing or mountaineering. They don't ask any questions as to like where you might be traveling. And so I don't have the ability to cover anything motorized in the backcountry, whether it's snowmobiles, ATVs, jeeping, anything like that, unless I go to Prime Insurance. Or I could go to Kinsale or something like that. They're kind of like Prime White, but it's like minimum premiums, $25,000, no matter what. Like, that's what I've been told. So I don't have any like direct carriers that will work with me. That said, if that is what you're doing, my recommendation is to work directly with Prime, and they will work with insureds directly. Like, they don't want to work with agents. Like, I just end up muddying the waters. Like, they would rather work directly with the insured. So my direction would be that if anybody's doing snowmobiling, work directly with Prime. See if you can get limits that are a little bit less than like 1 million occurrence, 2 million aggregate. Those are, standard commercial coverage limits that you would like to carry. However, if you are going to carry those limits, it's going to be pretty expensive. And I think Prime is willing to work with lowering your limits if you can get away with it for like, whatever your permits, your land use people want. So, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to type them in that Q&A spot on Zoom, or you can also raise your hand. All right, I don't necessarily see anything else right now. But what I'm hearing from you is we should expect the market to kind of stay where it is over the next year. Make sure to communicate with your broker. I know that typically you get an insurance renewal notification maybe 30 days ahead. So make sure you know when that is, and maybe work backwards a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
yourself a little bit more time, particularly if you do want to go get some more quotes in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Working with a broker who understands the work that we all do is super important, versus an agency that doesn't specialize in any outdoor activities. And knowing that there is a difference in premium when you're looking at kind of guided activities versus avalanche education, and being very specific about the type of work that you're doing. Maybe you are only running Abbey courses, or maybe your business is split and you're doing some both, and being really specific about the type of activities that you're offering can help really target that premium number.
Yeah, totally. And I would be, just as specific as possible with like whomever you're talking to. And I think that it's also fairly easy to discern whether or not someone's like getting like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
If somebody is in the middle of an insurance policy, let's say it doesn't expire until January, but they're not really happy with the coverage they have, can somebody cancel their coverage kind of mid agreement and pick another one up?
Yes, and it's going to probably cost them. There is usually like a minimum earned premium that like you're not going to get back. So all policies are, written differently. So it really just depends. I would say that I'd say probably like the easiest thing for anybody to do is to, if you want to start shopping for new coverage, start doing it like maybe 3 months before your coverage is up for renewal, and then just let that other coverage lapse, just let it expire.
Okay.
That's what I would do. I think that's the easiest thing to do for people. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I will send out, like Michelle said, she had written out the summary of her presentation. So I'll send that out to you all, as well as her contact information. If you all have more specific questions for her directly, or are interested in getting a quote, you'll have that there in your email address. And otherwise, like I said, we do have those other two webinars coming up. One's this Thursday around marketing and SEO, and the other on November 7th around managing your AIARE providership with Sarah McGregor. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you demystifying the insurance market. I know it's complex and confusing, so appreciate the expertise.
Yeah, sure thing, no problem. And it really is something that I enjoy doing a lot, and it gives me the opportunity to just kind of help people and guide people through a process that's often painful and so not exciting. So something that I've noticed too with like a lot of the climbers that have been calling me about when like the climbers co-op insurance fell apart is how many good questions people are asking. People are really wanting to know like what coverages they need and are really involved with it. So that's been really fun for me to help folks who are engaged.
Great. Well, sounds like
Yeah.
you might have a few more here.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much, Vickie. I really appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, everybody.